Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast, third season. How are my loyal listeners? Thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. This is a very special episode because Joseph Marcell boards the mothership. You know him as Geoffrey Butler on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Recently, he starred in The Exorcism of God. Now, come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Marcell. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
My pleasure. How are you?
So, I always start off with a question of inspiration. So, what inspired your love for acting and who your earliest influences?
My love for acting really started about 1966. My first real inspiration was the Negro Ensemble. I think it was. It was the American Negro Theater before they became the Negro Ensemble. They were in London with something called Black New World, and it was the first time I had seen huge billboards with black actors being fated and presented to us, and I went to see it, and that was the beginning of my my road to Damascus, really. Yeah.
Understanding speech, help you understand the people and the performances.
Training, you're either trained as an actor or trained as a singer and dancer. In those days, there was no crossover. It was a regular drama school, 3 years of learning to learn about plays, learn to act, learn to put on makeup, learn to do a little stage management, learn a little directing, that kind of thing. Yes.
So, one thing I think is fascinating about you is that you performed in many Shakespearean plays. So what keeps you returning to Shakespearean plays?
What keeps me returning? Firstly, it's vanity, because I was the last recipient of the Sam Wanamaker Award for my contribution to classical theatre and William Shakespeare. So I'm hoping to win another one. But you only receive one. But it's simply the challenge of it. It's what I was trained to do. It's what I've done most of my life, except for perhaps the 6 years that I worked on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But yeah, that's what my life has been. I can't say that I've been overly successful, and yet I played some iconic Shakespearean roles. Yeah, but it's kind of, I'm an actor. I can do anything if I'm given the time.
So as someone who's like a skilled Shakespearean thespian, what have you been, and haven't done so many, what have you learned more about Shakespearean plays the more you've done them? Either how to do the language, how to perform, or something about doing the stage work?
It's the simple challenge of it is trying to rise to it rather than bringing it down to you. And that's the most difficult thing. I mean, dealing with the images that are presented to you. For, let's say, King Lear, the late, in the storm, blow winds and crack your cheeks, rage, blow you cataracts and hurricanal spout. I mean, just what does that mean to a person living in 2023? However, the language is the fundamental and elemental part of the language we speak. So you try to sort of find out what it means to be standing in a storm, in a tempest, in a gale, and go, blow winds, and understand what that forces you to do. It forces you to find within yourself. You don't have a microphone to kind of amplify your feelings. So you actually have to find it within yourself. And that's the beauty of Shakespeare. It forces you to find it in your imagination and within your body, what to perceive what it means.
So I'm about to teach A Midsummer Night's Dream to my 8th graders, literally in 2.5 weeks. So trying to teach Shakespeare to these novice Shakespearean, to kids who are novice to reading Shakespeare, how would you advise them to approach this text, which can be, at least seemingly, very difficult?
Right. Give me the sort of age range of an 8th grader.
They're going to be 13 and 14 years old.
Oh yeah, piece of cake. Well, firstly, you find a point of reconciliation, and especially with A Midsummer Night's Dream, it's a fantasy. It's It could be the Hunger Games, whatever. I mean, it's a modern, it's a fantasy, and you find a modern equivalent, and you firstly get them to understand that the language is archaic. I mean, they won't understand half the time what it is they're saying. But in the course of a semester, they will begin to be curious about, what is it? What was My Mistress with the Monsters and Love. Yeah, the something Bauer and the rude mechanicals. What are mechanicals? That rehearsing a play, that kind of stuff. Approachable, understanding scenes first, and then you move on to Oberon and the lover, the poet, etc., etc. The more kind of erudite part.
So when you're thinking about Shakespeare, and you're thinking about, once again, you're talking about plays that have survived almost see 400 plus years, 450 years, 400 years.
Yeah.
Is it the language and the beauty of it, or is it his understanding of people? Do you think that has helped it last for those centuries?
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I don't have the intellectual capacity to explain that. But what I for myself, Shakespeare writes a scene that the way the character expresses himself within that situation seems to be the only way to put it, the only way he can say it. If you have Mark Antony standing in the forum with all the plebeians standing outside, and Brutus has said he has our permission to talk, how else would you start an address to people who are entirely against you anyway? But friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury him, not to praise him. In my opinion, he was the greatest dramatist, and that's what we have. You have within the situation, the character says the only thing he could say in that situation.
Mm-hmm. So when I'm thinking about teaching these 13 and 14-year-olds, can the play Midsummer Dream be enjoyed the same way if I don't try to make them act out the scenes?
Okay, you take A Midsummer Night's Dream. You have Theseus and Oberon. You have Theseus, Oberon. You have then you have the lovers. Then you have the queen and her fairies, and then you have the mechanicals, and going between them is Puck and Philostrate. And it really is what point of view you take on the presentation of the drama. It is easier to begin with the mechanicals, to get the people to understand what it is they're doing. But then it becomes more difficult when you get to the lovers, right? How Hermia rebels against her father, etc. And then, of course, you have Titania and Oberon, and how they represent I don't know whether it's nature or the world or the gods, how their lover's tiff has unbalanced everything. So I would start off. Yeah, I would get them to read it, and it doesn't really matter how long it takes, and of course it does. But we stop, we understand the meaning of the word, then we move on, and then we move on. Now there's a system created by the late Kristen Linklater and Tina Packer at Shakespeare and Company. They used to be in Lenox, Massachusetts. I think they're in Boston now. And it is called dropping in, and it is a way of getting the actor to understand what it is he's saying simply by rather than intellectually understanding, physical perception. So yeah, it takes years. It takes hours, in fact, days. And what it is that the actors sit facing each other with their eyes closed, and they play a scene. However, they don't speak the scene. The scene is spoken by the director. So we first meet Titania and Oberon. Ill met by moonlight, proud Titania. What? Jealous Oberon? Etc., etc. And so it would start with ill. Ill. What does that mean to you? Where do you hold ill in your body? Move your body to the word ill. Right. Next word, met. Met. What does met mean? Did you just meet somebody? And so it goes on like that, and you find that in the course of the thing, and it really does take a long time to do it, and it requires the power, the concentration that it requires is, it's phenomenal, because you can't fall asleep, you have to pay attention, etc., etc., and you find that at the end of it you do actually remember all the words, but it is, you begin it's like religion. Religion is about imagination. It's being able to imagine what God is, etc., what goodness is, etc., etc., and it is that. Oh God, it puts a bridle on your imagination and control. It's wonderful. And yeah, that's what it is. You simply, and I mean, you can do it by by sentences, or by paragraphs, but it is the most wonderful way of getting people to understand. And it is out of that you go and find out, what does ill mean? Does it mean unhealthy? Does it mean bad? Does it mean portentous? All those kinds of things. Yeah,
that sounds awesome, because, like I said, the one thing I think the hardest thing for younger generations to appreciate, especially young kids, to appreciate the story and the words. Cause I feel like they just have an assumption, because it's old, that it can be dismissed. And I don't think they understand how relevant it still is this many years later.
Yes. Yes, and it is the way you and I are communicating. I mean, we have the picture, but really the picture is just the picture. It's the way I try to get you to understand what I'm thinking, etc., etc., and that's really what it is. We could say that the modern power of artificial intelligence makes it easier for us, but what it does, it stops us working it out. It's already done for us. It's like the word dead. In our time, unless you're related to a person that has passed away, it doesn't mean anything. In Shakespeare's play, people die all the time, and yet it becomes something really important. And what Shakespeare forces you to do is to understand what the connotations, the import of the word. Because when the word dead is the end, I mean, it's like finished. You can't call it back. You can't, it's done. It's like, you've just missed. It's gone. It's gone. There's nothing there. And it is those things that if we can have our children continue to understand that when we communicate those ideas, those images, that they are complete and finite. Yeah.
One thing, are you still serving on the board of Shakespeare's Global Theatre in London?
Yes, I am. Yes.
So what does that mean? Because I mean, the Global Theatre is like the theater in like history. I know it's been it burned down and then they rebuilt and stuff like that. Well, what is that like, and how does that help you as well understand these plays better? Because you have an important role.
Go on. Sorry.
Because it's, I mean, because being on the board of Shakespeare Global Theatre, I mean, that's a major responsibility, and to these plays, I mean, how deep is your understanding, and has made your understanding of all this stuff?
The first thing that Shakespeare's Globe exists in London at the moment, and in New Zealand, and in Dusseldorf, and in Germany, and in a couple of other places, because of the imagination, tenacity and commitment of an American actor called Sam Wanamaker, God rest his soul. Back in the 80s, that was his obsession, his dream, and which has come into fruition. And without him, who knows? And I was lucky enough that I was playing Othello in London, and somebody had introduced me to him. He came to the show and he said, I'd like you to be on the Council of Shakespeare's Globe. At that time, it was called the Artistic Directorate. And I mean, trying to get funding from the not only the funding bodies but the government at that time was not easy. And so our function at the time was more bricks and mortar kind of thing, the things that we had to do. And then gradually there were more trustees added. We had a wonderful mayor in London called Ken Livingstone who helped push it through, and it worked. But it really was Sam Wanamaker who made it happen. Now, my contribution is, I don't direct plays. I haven't acted there. My last performance there was just before the pandemic, 2020. But we have council meetings three times a year, and that's one of the reasons I'm in London at the moment. It's Mr. Wanamaker, God rest his soul, was an actor. And Shakespeare was an actor who wrote plays, and the idea is there is one side that is more intellectual and academic, but it's really a theater. People come to see the plays as imagined to have been presented during Shakespeare's time, and I simply act sometimes, give moral support, give my opinions, and every now and then I get an award.
Do you think you're gonna be doing another play soon for Shakespeare?
I'm working. I'm working on a film in Canada next spring, but I think my next Shakespeare might be The Tempest. We haven't signed anything, but there are two places that might have it. Either the Roundhouse or Shakespeare's Globe. We haven't quite worked it out, but I have to do this film in Toronto next year. But yes, until I fall off the perch, I will continue doing Shakespeare plays. Yes.
So as you mentioned earlier, when the roles you're most famous for is Geoffrey the Butler in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So, in your opinion, why do you think that series has survived so well? I mean, it's been 30 years ago that it did, and it's still beloved. A new generation is still finding it. They made the Bel-Air reboot. I guess it is called a reboot. As well. So why do you think that has survived so well?
Oh my God. Okay. Because I was in it. No. No. It was. What can we say? I'm trying to remember here. It's quite difficult. The Jeffersons. Oh, what else did we have? The Cosby Show, and then the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now, it was the natural conclusion. I mean, it had to happen that there would be an African American who was a decision maker, an employer rather than employee. Now, what is it that makes it so, gives it such a long life? I think, firstly, the skill of Andy and Susan Borowitz, who created the thing, the unsuppressible talent of Will Smith. The fact that the group of us, from the late James Avery, Alfonso Ribeiro, Karen Parsons, Daphne Reed, I think she is, Janet Hubert. The group, the ensemble group was, and of course Tatiana Ali. I mustn't forget her. Oh my God, the group was solid, and I think we still do. We liked each other. We liked each other's company, but mostly it was an it's the Victor Hugo thing. It was an idea whose time had come, and luckily for that idea, there was Will Smith to be the frontman for it, and lucky we were. I mean, it's marvelous.
So, in your opinion, the relationship between Geoffrey the Butler and Will Smith's character, do you think it's more of a friend, a mentor, or sort of a third parent?
Now that's an interesting question, because he's certainly not a parent of. He's not a surrogate parent, but he is he's every man. He's the voice of reason, and it is the pill is uncoated. The pill is presented to you as it is, and I think that's what it is. I think Will Smith's relationship with Geoffrey Butler is simply the fact that they have never met people like each other before. Will has never met somebody like Geoffrey, and Geoffrey has never met somebody like Will. I mean, they're mostly trendy Californians, not a boy from Philly, and I think there's a curiosity and a natural attraction there, but most of all for because this is may be a comedy of manners. It is a comedy. It's not a drama. And yeah, the comedy is mined and mined very well within it, and of course. There have not been. There have been many, but there has not been a family show on US TV or world TV like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that you can actually you can just turn it on and leave your children to watch it, knowing that there's nothing there that is offensive or salacious or corruptible.
Well, have you seen the reboot of it yet? And what did you think of that attempt?
Yeah, I've seen the reboot. Yes, we were at the premiere. I've seen 2 episodes, and what can I say? It's Bel-Air. It's not the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's Bel-Air, and I think it has every right to be there, and it has every right. But it's people are, as you know, comparisons are odorous. It's not the same show. The characters have the same name, but ours was a half-hour sitcom. This is a 1-hour drama, and there's no comparison.
Better.
You could say that. I couldn't possibly.
Another movie that you were in that me and my wife absolutely loved is The Exorcism of God.
Ah, you've seen that?
I have seen it. It was fantastic. Now you play in it Father Michael Lewis.
Yes.
And I think one thing that was most interesting about the movie, well, there's a lot of things in the movie without giving away spoilers. I'm trying not to give away the spoiler. But one has the most intriguing title I can think of. So what did you think about when you first heard the movie and the title, and how was it presented to you?
A literary and director's agent called Michael Lewis, who is also the theatrical agent of the director Alejandro Hidalgo. And Michael Lewis and I had known each other when I first went to Los Angeles in 1990, and we were friends, go to eat, what young men did in those days. And he said, this thing's come up, and would you like to do it? I said, of course I'd like to do it. Definitely, I'll bite your hand. and that was it. Now, the title, The Exorcism of God, it took me a while to understand what it means, because it is absolutely, you exorcise the devil, you don't exorcise God. And that's the point. It's, you go, ah, I see, said the blind man. So that's what it means. Yes. And it's about exorcising God from the lives of those people.
Now, what interesting is that with Father Michael is that they infer a lot of backstory to this character that you never get to really see or experience. So
that's the truth.
Right. So how much were you told that maybe we don't, as the viewers, don't know about, but the director gave you some backstory on the character?
Yes, it was easier because I was raised a Roman Catholic, so I had a vague idea about all these things, but to to uh, to delineate a character like the Father Michael, excuse me, what he does, you need to do a lot of background reading, and I didn't have the time to do days and days and days of that. I kind of skim through things, learn a little here, learn a little Latin there, and that kind of stuff. And so, but what you needed from the director, you needed the kind of life root of that person, and that's really what it was. I mean, once you've been given the route that person has traveled to this point, you kind of fill in the blanks. You say, okay, so I don't know anything about holy water. Okay, let's see, how would right, I don't know anything about the Vatican and how these people. So you learn a little. That's what yeah.
So,
and it's not necessarily cursory. It's just they're just bullet points that need to be kind of clarified.
So when you think about Father Michael, was there ever a discussion, or is there an ongoing discussion about a prequel featuring Father Michael? Getting some of that back.
From your mouth to God's ears. From your mouth to God's ears. Well, Alejandro keeps saying that, I don't know when I'll do another movie, but you're definitely going to be in it. So who knows? But I think that although that's the beauty of horror films, that although Father Michael died in the film, that doesn't mean that he can't, he cannot be resurrected.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, once you watch the movie, not giving anything away, you automatically are guaranteed that there's in this world in the movie, the hell exists and heaven exists. From that point on, anything else is possible.
Yeah. I have to say, there is a moment in the film where, and I can only talk about myself and my character, that when we are walking through the kind of labyrinth and the banshees and just jump. I mean, I was terrified. I was absolutely thought, my God. And when I see it on the screen, it's like, yeah, you are terrified. And he just said they'll be jumping at you. He didn't exactly say how they were going. Oh man, and it was just wonderful, just terrific. I love Alejandro. I just love it.
Well, it's one of those. I mean, one thing, I can't give away the spoilers, but the movie has some serious balls to it. I mean, to end the way it ends, I was like, oh, you're not supposed to end a movie like that.
Yes, you're not supposed to. Yeah, it's. I mean, and the movie asks, really asks, how does one resist temptation?
Right.
And that what do you do to avoid it? And no matter what you do, it's there, and it's like it's a terrific question, because everyone in those characters. Sorry.
No, I'm saying, and I also thought to myself at the end, without ruining spoiling anything, it really makes you wonder, what does victory look like? Because on the one hand, you do have a victory, sort of.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I wondered to myself, like, in a very in a way, there was a victory for your protagonist. But at the same time, if you're from a certain point of view, God's point of view, or it wasn't. But it's I'm saying it like where what was more important?
Well, yes, it's our view of life and everything is kind of linear, I suppose. Is that the way you say it? Yeah. Victory means I will get everything I want, and it will happen the way I want it. But it doesn't happen that way. It's again it's the temptation of it, and he does put that across very clearly. With Michael, he seems a very easygoing, efficient kind of cardinal, and he does the things that he does, and then you discover, that perhaps he may have, who knows, and it's the things that make us human and not angels.
Yeah, and my wife was you can tell when she's really into a movie because she starts yelling at the screen. And she started yelling at the screen multiple times. She's like, "Where is God in this? Where is God in this?" I thought to myself, "That's a good question because the devil's very active in this movie, and God doesn't seem to be taking any part in it." And you think to myself, "Well, depending on your point of view."
Well, yes, you watch it and you think, well, why are we getting this point of view so much rather than the other point of view? And then you think, well, actually, the other point of view has given the characters in this point of view a will, the power of self-determination. They should have chosen not to be involved. Now they have to see it too.
But it was such an extraordinary part, and you did such a wonderful job in it.
Thank you.
Where your character started from, and what I thought he was going to be. Obviously, the movie you compare always to would be The Exorcist, and that's great mentor. Then you start then that scene where he reveals some of that without giving it away. I'm like, shit, that is a well done scene. The acting was fantastic, the writing was good, and the look in your eyes when you're giving that piece of information was it was amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. I enjoyed it. Mexico was lovely, and it was that's a tired word, but it was a fantastic group of actors. Yeah, the Mexican actors as well. Just superb.
And I think it would be great to, like I say, either a prequel or sequel. One of those two must happen.
Yeah, please, you just make it happen. Because I think the way my beard's growing, perhaps a sequel might be better.
So another movie that's coming out with you, you're playing Claude in Portraits with Dangerous Women. So can you tell anything about what that movie's going to be about?
Claude. Well, is it, he's called Claude. Is he Claude Monet, or, what kind of Claude? Who is this Claude? I'm basically a cameo. I'm the artist that causes all the problems, but it's a nice little role. I mean, he's flamboyant in his representational work. It's like, if he paints a lamp, there's like halos and stuff around. It's just marvelous. And it was an engagement which was power without responsibility, and I loved it.
Well, I gotta ask you about one more film that I heard about that you're in. You're welcome to dance around the answers, but I'm going to bother you about it anyway because it's important to me. So what I read is that you're going to appear as Reverend Watts in Hellboy The Crooked Man. Is this accurate?
That is very true, if they don't cut me out, of course. But yes, that is very true. We did this in the early spring of this year, 23, in Bulgaria, Sofia. And yes, the blind Reverend Watts, who Who's gotten, it takes a lot of suspension of disbelief. That's one. A kind of Appalachian accent. And he is, I, you know, I, the kind of having to wear a blind contacts, and and all the stuff that comes with that, learning to not although you can see but you can't really see, trying to it was a wonderful acting challenge. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so that's coming out sometime, I don't know when. Yes, in the new
So,
year.
what can you say about your function in the movie?
My function in the movie is I am the reverend of a town that is it's even worse than decimated. It's more than 1 in 10. I would say, let's say 9 out of 10 people have become zombies and stuff, and I we wonder why the evil spirits have allowed him to be around and to survive, because and his his face is unshakable. He's folksy, and yet he's kind of imperious at the same time. He's managed to survive in a town, in a village, in a hamlet, where you never quite know that the next person you meet will be human or zombie. It's just, and but the thing that really keeps him together is his church. He loves his church, and within his church you are protected. And so when Hellboy and the rest of them appear, it's pure magic.
That sounds amazing. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Hellboy comic books. Were you familiar with the Hellboy comics before you got the role?
Yes, I had, but it was, I was just about too old for them. But in my day, it was, what was it? What was my favorite? Batman, not Batman. The magician, and those
Oh,
kinds of
Doctor
things.
Strange.
Doctor Strange and those kinds of things. I remember, not returning them after they've lent it to you, and people calling your mother and saying, "Tell your son to get my comics back." But yeah, Hellboy, yes, and it's what would is it a horror? Is it not a horror? Is it? Yeah, it'll keep you at the edge of your seats. I know that. But the little I've seen of it. Yeah.
So your scenes have already been filmed?
Oh yes, so I finished on about the end of May this year. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm gonna just bother you with more. So the Hellboy, the actor Hellboy, is it mostly a practical makeup or is it CGI makeup that they're using for Hellboy?
Practical makeup.
Practical
For
makeup.
men. Yeah, John has to. I mean, it's like he has to be fanned after every take, because it just pours off him, kind of. Yeah, but he has a wonderful sense of humor. That man, God bless him.
But like I said, that's awesome. Can you tell me anything more about is the production itself completed? Like, do you know where they are in the filming process?
No, film is complete. We I So April, I did 5 weeks, and I was 2 weeks before the end. So I left about the end of May. They had 2 weeks in June, and that was it. And now Mr. Taylor's putting it together and doing what they do with films, sweetening it, I think is the word.
Well, like I said, there's a big audience for Hellboy, so we're all looking forward to seeing you
Yes.
blossom this one as well. Um, okay, well, is there or did you sign a multi-film deal for this? You're going to be a multi, or is this a one-shot movie?
Well, interestingly enough, it is a one shot, but we shall see, because the next one is a prequel. I'm told the story is told of those characters by somebody who was there, and maybe they'll remember the Reverend Watts. Who knows?
That is awesome. So, so what's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm going to Wales to do 3 episodes of a half-hour sitcom that a friend has, who asked me to do the pilot back in 2021. But it was during the pandemic and the shutdown, but we somehow the BBC managed to get permission. So I, flew here, and it took me up. We did the pilot, and then 2 years later, almost 3 years later, the BBC are going to do 3 episodes, and it's wonderfully funny. And it's about, these 2 old codgers, and who one is young and one is old, and yet they're the same age. One gets they go off. They're both teachers. They go off on a skiing holiday. One gets trapped in an avalanche for 30 years. And of course, he remains. He doesn't change. He lives. Picture of Dorian Gray, really, up in the attic. And they come back, and they're still friends. But one's has the body of a 40-year-old, and the other the body of a 70-year-old, and it's hilarious.
Oh, so awesome.
Then I'm doing a Canadian film. Well, yeah, that was the idea. By what's her name? Supposed to be the enfant terrible of Canadian theatre. What's her name? Andrea Evelina, and yeah, that should start sometime in March, but we shall see. Evelina, probably. Do you have a second? I check it out exactly so I don't say it wrong. Is this on? No, sorry. Actors are not the best filers in the world. Where are we? What's this one? No. Where are we? I found the script, but it could be here. No, I found the script. Marcell, how could you, boy? How could you? Yes. Okay. It is called. Please edit that.
Be edited. Don't worry about it.
I can't even see. Okay. It is called Seahorse, and her name is Aisha Evelina, Evelyna, Aisha Evelina, and yes, it's Sad Girls Cinema Inc. in Canada. So they sort of sorted me out, and yeah. So that's my next one. The reason I don't know anything, of course, is that the deal hasn't been made yet by the people who make the deals.
So when you're when they release Hellboy The Crooked Man, can you come back and talk about it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I'm just just get Evelyn or Margaret. Yes, absolutely. It would be a pleasure. Yes. And of course I'll be more kind of au fait with events as they are. Yes.
Mr. Marcell, it's been an absolute honor to speak with you, sir. And like I said, come back anytime.
Mr. Haas, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Take very good care. Thank you. Bye-bye.